Hello, in this video I'm going to explain to you section 2 of chapter 11. In section 2 we're going to take a look at factorizing binomials. But before we do that, let us look at all these formulas. Because what are binomials? Well, when you take a good look excuse me, at all these formulas, you see that the right hand side of all these formulas have two terms. And when you have a formula that contains two terms, we call these formulas binomials. So all these are examples of binomials because all these formulas, when you look at the right hand side, have two terms. Later on in this chapter, in section 4, we're also going to take a look at trinomials. And trinomials are a bit different because trinomials do not have two terms, they have three terms. For example, let me take this formula. I can change it a bit. Just for an example, this is no longer a binomial. This is what we call a trinomial. Then the formula has three terms on the right hand side. So let me erase this, and now we only have binomials. In this section, we're going to take a look at how to factorize a binomial. Let us look at a few examples. The first example, we have a binomial. It contains two terms, and going to take a good look how to factorize it. And this means I want to write this formula in a different way, but it's still the same formula, but then with brackets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a common factor for both terms. You can also think, by what number can I divide this term, but also that one? So both I can divide by 4. So I copy the y is over here, and then I take my 4 and I put it over here. And then I have to make sure, and you can see we are factorizing. Factors are parts of a formula you multiply by each other. So over here is the multiplication dot. So what needs to be between brackets? Then you can think 4 times something needs to be 4x. So over here should be an x. Now remember, when we removed brackets, we used arcs, and you did 4 times something, 4 times x. Indeed, that's 4x. But think about the next step. When you were removing brackets, you needed to do 4 times something, and then there should be 20, positive 20, plus 20. So over here should be plus 5. It's really easy to check just by using your arcs. You can write it down, but you can also do this just by looking at this binomial, at this example. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times plus 5 is 20. So this one is correct. In this example, you can see the multiplication dot, but I just show you once because we need to write down the formula as always as short as possible. So I'm not going to write it down again, and you write it down like this. You should know always that between the 4 and the first bracket you multiply. There's a multiplication symbol. But this is the shortest way to write it down. Let us look at the second example. B is 7a plus 21. We have two terms, and we're going to take a good look. By what number can I divide both terms? What's the common factor? Well, and they both can be divided by 7. So I'll write down B is, and then I start with 7. 7 times something. And now you need to figure out what needs to be between brackets so that this formula is still the same as the binomial. 7 times something needs to be 7a. So there should be an a over here. 7 times something should be 21. Plus 21, positive number, so I need plus 3. And again, make sure you check. 7 times a is 7a. 7 times 3 is plus 21. So this one's correct. Both examples only had plus, but you can also have binomials with a minus. So let us take a good look at this one. Well, it's good that you look for the common factor, but there are a lot of common factors with these numbers. For example, both terms can be divided by 2. So when I'm going to factorize, excuse me, I could do this. Y is equal to, for example, both terms can be divided by 2. So I write down 2, bracket, 2 times something needs to be 24x, so there should be 12x. 2 times something, and make sure you look closely for this minus, 2 times something is minus 36. Then you should write down minus 18. Well, this is factorized, and it's really well, it's okay. But there is an agreement in mathematics that you always look for the largest common factor. This means both terms can be divided by 2, but they can also be divided by 3, and also by 4, and also by 6. And there's yet another number, and that's the largest one. What's the largest number I can use? So what's the largest common factor? That's what you need to look for. So let us think about that. The largest common factor. That's 12. Because 24 can be divided by 12 and minus 36 also. So we should get 12 times something is 24x. That's 2x. 12 times something needs to be minus 36. Beware of the minus. This should be minus 3. So, really important that you always look for the largest common factor. This is okay, but you can do better. Take a good look at this one, the largest common factor. So let us look for some other examples, because we were looking for the common factor, but this can also be a variable. When I look at the first example, you see 2 terms, and what is the common factor? And in this example, the common factor is a, the variable a. Both terms can be divided by a. And then you need to think, a times something is a squared. So there should be an a over here. Y, a times a is a squared. A times something should be 4a. So there should be over here a plus and the 4. And again, you can check if you've done this correct. A times a squared. A times plus 4 is plus 4a. So the next one, really take a good look at what the common factors are. But and when you look at this example, I have numbers and I also have variables. So both terms can be divided by the variable t. So t should be over here. But I also have the number 4. And 4 can be divided by 4. And minus 12 can also be divided by 4. So outside the brackets should be 4t. Then you think again, 4t times something needs to be 4t squared. So over here should be t. 4t times t is 4t squared. 4t times something should be minus 12t. And that should be minus 3. Yes? Okay. Really important. We talked about this earlier. Always look for the largest common factor to write outside the brackets. Because in this last example, I could have also done this as is equal to 2t. Then between brackets there should have been 2t, because 2t times 2t is 4t squared, and then minus 6. And this is, again, it's okay, but this is the best. So always look for the largest common factor. So last two examples has to do with a negative number. So they are asking write the right-hand side of the formula as a product with a negative number. And this means the number outside the brackets should be a negative number. So when I look at this formula, the common factor is 5, but also minus 5. So I'm going to write down outside of my brackets minus 5. And I'll really look closely, so this stays the same formula. Between brackets, minus 5 times something should be minus 5b, so there should be a b over here. But now I should get plus 50, so minus 5 times something needs to become plus 50. And then you have to know, negative times negative becomes positive, so over here should be minus 10. Minus 5 times minus 10 is plus 50. So the last two examples. This one, we need to have a negative number outside of the brackets, and we can divide by minus 3. But also we can divide by x. Minus 3x times x is minus 3x squared. And the last one should be negative. Negative times positive is negative, so there should be a positive number, and this will become plus 5. So in all cases we have a negative number outside of the brackets. And we need to do the same in the last one. We can divide by a, but also by minus 8. So between outside of the brackets, minus 8a. And then look closely. Minus 8a times something should stay minus 8a. There's only one possibility then, and that's 1. Minus 8a times 1 is still minus 8a. And then I have to have a positive number, plus. And I'm multiplying with a negative number, so the number over here should also be negative. And this will become minus 2, because then I get plus 16. And look at a squared, or already you have a over here, so there should be an a over there. Make sure you can check this each time. Minus 8a times 1 is minus 8a. Minus 8a times minus 2a will be positive 16a squared. So you can always check if you have done this correctly by removing the brackets again. Good luck with the exercises.